So
Yay!
that's the applause of the people you can't see, but I hope you can hear that. Thanks so much for this film. What an incredible piece of work this is. Just so much going on in here. That's just it's kind of unfathomable in a lot of ways. But before we get to talking about the actual picture, let's talk about how you got onto this project. Like, what were you working on at the time? And you brainstormed and this. How did it come up?
Absolutely. I was working on an observational documentary looking at the institutional racism in a football club here in Australia by following one player over 7 years. So after, I think, the 17th 2 a.m. call on a Thursday, I thought, maybe I should start making some archive-based documentaries. Yeah, where the subjects are, or the interviews are sort of done, or I'm kind of just in and out. And so yeah, I started to daydream about some of these archive-based films, and I remembered watching The Day After when I was 5. My whole family in Flushing, Queens, where my grandparents lived, saw The Day After along with 100 million other Americans, and they had the sense to put me to bed before that iconic bombing sequence. But I got the point. These people I was being introduced to were gonna die a slow, horrible death, and it hit me like it hit many kids my age in the 80s. We're Reagan babies. We grew up with this nuclear angst, and as a filmmaker later in life, I thought, reflecting on The Day After, how could a family-friendly network like ABC, the makers of Love Boat and Happy Days, make a film that shows America what surviving nuclear war would look like? I just thought there's got to be a great story behind this. And once I met Nicholas Meyer, I realized this is a story worth telling. This is a period in our history worth documenting.
So was Nicholas Meyer the first person you talked to about the film?
He was, yeah. I thought he seemed to be a key subject in the film. So I thought, if I can convince Nicholas to do an interview, which he reluctantly agreed to, and after a few talks, he said, "Okay, listen, I'll give you half an hour." I ended up spending 5 hours with him, and he just he told me absolutely everything, as far as he could, and I realized this is great. And when I started to kind of get to him on Stu Samuels, and I realized, now I need Stu. How am I going to do that? And that was a 2-year process convincing Stu to join the film.
Okay, so you talked to Nick and you did interviews with him, but you must have had, for the film, you must have had to interview him again after other people said other things. So back and forth with interviews that you were doing with Stu or with Brandon or whoever.
No, actually, I really made sure. I'm a student of history, and I have parents, and my dad's there in the audience. Hey, Dad. Hey, April. Hey, Peter.
All right. Had no idea. idea.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, Sag Harbor. I'm so proud to be screening this film in Sag Harbor. But my parents, they're lovers of history. They understand the purpose of research and good research, and making sure you know what you're talking about before you open your mouth. So I did my research before that interview with Nick, and that's why I spent 5 hours with him. I got everything, and I
frozen. I hate this. There it is.
Yeah, what Nick said, and I mean, there are certain things that were not exactly as he said it, because Nick maybe had a different memory of things, but he certainly recorded everything that happens quite well at the time. So that's why you have all those incredible archive, the call sheets and parts of the scripts, and all of that he kept. So thanks to Nicholas Meyer, I was able to really get the best out of an archive-based film.
Well, that goes to one of the most brilliant things about the film, is because in the way that goes from Stu to Nick, and about what the censors said, and about what, what Nick's response was, what Stu's response was, and so forth, the way you've cut that back and forth, it's as if they're in conversation with one another. So that's just really brilliant, I have to say. And the research, this goes to, in many ways, because any well, it seems to me that any film that's going to be about television, making a television project, is going to be a comedy because of just the interface between the business interests and the ratings interest and the censors interest and the advertisers and what kind of things are we going to do here? As you say, this is the network that made the Love Boat. So. And everybody knows that any project a writer does gets, slammed by the network and changed around and whatever. And so Nick saying no to everything, there's a comedy. And of course, you did lots of comedy in it. You cut in these wonderful things about, he talked to me as if I was a bad boy and you had a little kid rolling his eyes. So, the little bits you inserted in it to play up the comedy, I guess. But the comedy is against the really stark reality of what's going on here. So again, really brilliant on your part.
I'm trying to get ways, just like the day after did. You're trying to get ways to draw people in, and the inherent comedy that I saw in the commercial interests of a network and the creative interests of artists trying to save the world. And I knew that something, that this is going to be a great story, and it relates to me as well as a filmmaker. This is what we go through. This is the constantly have to go through to create art in many ways, because it's so hard to find independent, supported artists, which is why I'm so proud to show this film in Sag Harbor, a town that has a long history of supporting independent artists. Please support your local artists, because then they're able to really do what they feel they need to do without commercial interests coming in and trying to stamp their agenda on it. So there was a lot that I connected with in making this film.
Well, and connected all of us to it, and going to personal as well as national history. I can't speak for the rest of the demographic and the audience, but I know that my nuclear angst was in the missile crisis. And I was in New York City, and we had air raid drills, and we had to get under our desks. And every building we went to in New York City had the fallout shelter. There was a signal for where the fallout shelter was in every building. And we had drills, and it was like, you heard the siren, and you're in Central Park and you heard the siren. You said, "Is this a drill? Or is this the end? What are we doing here?" So by the time it came to the 80s, I was doing other things. I wasn't around for the day after. I was not one of the 100 million that saw it, but all the nuclear angst, and having seen Strangelove and having seen On the Beach and other nuclear aftermath films. And we're now in this era, we're in this whole post-apocalyptic phase of all the films in the world, and Cormac McCarthy and the rest of it. But to see it in the 80s, and to see Nick Myers in his shorts and sweat socks on the set, oh my God, 1980s, so beautiful.
Yeah, and I think that's the point from what you're saying, that really is what Brandon Stoddard had in mind. He knew that after the 60s, people really just didn't want to revisit that time. And because Reagan was saber rattling,
please don't do this, internet,
a political tool, or you could see it as him basically saying the only way for us to stop this evil empire is to have a bigger stick. That really started scaring people again, but there was a generation that had already been through that and didn't want to be reminded. So how do we at this time try and get it from the back of people's mind to the fronts of their minds? And how better than network television, put it straight into Americans' living room. They have no choice but to watch.
Right.
I thought that this is also 1983 was the year where you had more people than ever before or since watching network television.
Exactly.
This is the only time you can get 100 million people watching. So I just thought, what an incredible moment, a kind of confluence of coincidences to document this time when the power of television could have this type of influence to galvanize a country, regardless of what they thought about nuclear war or how to solve it, to come together and talk to each other despite their differences. I think that also spoke to me at this time, where it seems the country is still polarized politically and in many other ways. We have the ability to come together and talk about these things on an emotional level. And that's this TV movie did. I feel.
And I think this film goes to that same point, but it was 1983, and one of the problems we have now is I was thinking about, could we make a television film about climate change that would unite the entire world around that issue, right? But it's not easy to do now, because you can't get 100 million people to see one thing at the same time, because everybody watches the information that agrees with their point of view. So
which is not news. It's an oxymoron.
I mean, we all used to watch a movie of the week all at the same time. We all used to watch Seinfeld at the same time. It doesn't happen anymore. So hard to get people together in that way. So capturing that moment, and Ted Koppel and the actual change in policy. But so much of the way the film was done was the beautiful interface between the comedy of network television and the effort for artists to get their work done, and then and difficult artists. I don't care if he says he's not difficult; he's definitely difficult. But getting their work done, and then national policy, which is deadly serious. And you see the response of the actress, I don't remember her name, that was the child and that had a hard time looking at Lawrence, right? So, I mean, that's the reality of it. And you establish early on that 75% of the nation thought that nuclear war was going to happen. 75% of the nation thought it was going to happen. And the reality that the nuclear bombs that were available at the time could kill the entire population of the earth 54 times over. So these kinds of statistics behind what was shown, and just, I don't know, I can't say enough about the film because of how you showed the reaction across the country and the buildup to it, and the fears and what was going to happen, and the politicizing of it. I mean, listening to Buckley, unbelievable.
Oh, yeah, it's amazing. And he's representing a certain point of view that was very strong in the United States, and I really appreciate. It's an incredible panel discussion that I recommend you all check out for free on YouTube. You're getting together the opinions of America based on some of the biggest minds at that time discussing a TV show. And they debated, they were able to express their point of view so that people in the audience, people at home could say, that's me speaking there. And then they got to hear a different point of view. And I feel that started the basis for Americans to start to talk with each other about an issue that they'd rather ignore. So I absolutely had climate change and the climate crisis in the back of my head when I was thinking about this film, because it seemed to that was another issue that we'd rather not think about or try and deal with. And what this TV movie did was it translated something that is otherwise indigestible, something that is unimaginable, like nuclear war, and they made it imaginable. That's what artists do. That is the influence that artists have, so that you're able to understand these vast global issues, whatever they may be at the time, on an emotional level. And you're able to weigh that emotional understanding of this issue equally to your intellectual or to your political understanding of that issue, and engage with people, find some common grounds with other people who've shared that experience of watching the TV movie, and actually discuss it on that level. And it's the power that art has. It's the influence that art can have to try and imagine the unimaginable. As Elie Wiesel said, the unimaginable is possible, the impossible is possible. So we need to keep these in mind. And this is the important role that artists play in our lives.
Oh, absolutely. And to that point, I thought, okay, so what if they had made a futuristic documentary, like an imagined documentary, which is, here's the statistical things that happen, and and you could make dramatizations in it, but it would be a documentary. And that does not engage the human heart the way that art does, the way that a feature film story, a narrative, where you meet characters, you get to know them, and you get to see, because the best, well, we can debate that, but one of the best parts of performative art, of the performing arts, is to relate to the human condition. And you can relate to the human condition in a journalistic way, but how much more do you relate to it with Shakespeare, with Edward O'Neill, the Iceman, whatever? But that's how you, that's how you connect. Yes, and you
That's
connect to
it.
the
How many
experience.
more people do you grab? I
Exactly.
felt that with a TV movie, if Nicholas Meyer had his way, then it would still be a very successful film, but he doesn't have the incentive in some ways or the tools or knowledge to understand how television works. And so that's why Stu Samuels was an important part of this, of creating this TV movie. It's based on a compromise so that you can grab the largest audience possible to have this shared reaction. And Stephanie Stephanie Austin, who later went on to produce all of James Cameron's films, including Terminator 2. She was responsible for that incredible nuclear blast scene. That was all her. She says we didn't achieve, as you know, as you just saw, what I wanted. I wanted it to be real, but I recognized that something better happened. We were able to get as many people as possible to watch this and discuss it. And in the end, that was really the point of what we were trying to do.
Yeah.
So I just thought this is quite an important part of our media history, to a period to document, and this TV movie seemed to encapsulate just what the incredible influence that even the simple art of a TV movie can have.
And because it was a TV movie, and because at that time, which doesn't exist anymore, it was a lot of people watching it all at the same time. And there had been other movies made, as I mentioned, a couple of them, different ones, Fail Safe and Strange Love and On the Beach come to mind, right? But they're feature films. People see them when they see them. Some people don't see them. Other people do see them. The people that are not inclined to go to films like that don't go to films like that. But when it's on television, and it has all the promo that television does, and it's on the topic that is of such, existential interest, and everybody watches at the same time, television can do that. And it can't be a feature film. It can't be the 4-hour job that he wanted, because people are going to get up and go make some Orville Redenbacher popcorn. It's like, what are you going to do? So documenting that time in America when television could really make the change and bring people together in that way. That's a phenomenal part of it too.
Yeah, it's the people's medium, and I found it interesting that the same compromise was happening that it seems Reagan and the Soviet Union at that time were trying to have with each other. And, in the end, they found that if we're trying to talk about something that affects all people, then it's probably better that we talk with each other than about each other. And that's what I saw play out in the making of The Day After. So I just thought, that's quite interesting.
No, I think it is fascinating, and I just love the way that you made the film too, because not only the technical expertise of cutting everybody back together again, and the things you inserted, but I mean when you just little throwaway bits that are not throwaway bits because you're making the film, but saying I wanted Jason Robards, I'm on a plane with him and we're 36,000 feet and there's no agents, there's nobody, and so you want to be in a film. Yeah, I want to do that. This is about nuclear war. Sure, it's easier than signing petitions. I mean, come on. And then he says, I didn't want Iceman, and you get a bit of him in Iceman. So it's just like, so it's just brilliant touches, and brought it all together so beautifully.
I'm so glad. Yeah, there's so much to show. All these people are incredible. To be able to show just a small bit of what Jason Robards is capable of. See Iceman cometh. I mean,
I know, I know, and having them have to redo the scene, having her redo the scene of screaming down the stairs, and that's the artist at work. The director saying an actor gives you that gift, and then you have to ask them to do it again. It's like unbelievable. So
and how much each of the actors gave of themselves because they believed in what they were doing. They really wanted to make this as good as it could possibly be. And even the people of Lawrence, 2,000 students and members of the city of Lawrence, Kansas, coming together to act as extras, just laid out on in the field house at Kansas University to be a part of something that they knew was quite important. You don't get that easily.
No.
There was really, people really believed in the making of this film, and I felt that they should be honored. And I'm going to be showing the film in Lawrence, Kansas.
Well, I hope so. That's perfect.
Mm.
And again, you captured the human face of not only the comic human face of the television business, but also the very human face of all the people involved in the film. And when you see the people of Lawrence the day after, I mean, the night after it comes out, and the mayor and the candles, and you talk to that actress, and they all had PTSD from just the making of the film because of the considerations involved. And we have run out of time. I can't believe it, but I was hoping we'd get some questions from the audience. But it's so great that you could join us today, and that we had internet for most of it. You know, that's a good thing.
Yeah, certainly.
And we salute you and your father, who's here today. So
yeah. Thanks, Dad. And yeah, please go to my website, Common Room Productions. My email address is there. If anyone has questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Yeah, find me on
Common
Room Productions.
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
Follow me on social media. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
So you're taking the film to Lawrence. You got other plans for the film too?
Yeah, the film is it had its premiere here in Sydney, and it's going to be screened all over the world soon, and hopefully in theaters soon. So watch out.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks, Seg Harbor.